But maybe this is just what the doctor ordered. Maybe some good old raised bed dirt here will do it right. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a spectacular day. It is Sunday, May 19th here in South Georgia, and today we're finally going to get some of these pitiful looking GMO purple tomato plants in the ground or in one of our raised beds. First, we're going to check on our in-ground tomatoes, see if we need to do anything to those. Then we'll get these along with some other cherry tomatoes planted in a raised bed, and then I'll give you some ideas of what we got planned for some of the other raised beds in the next week or so. So first, let's do an update on this in-ground plot where we have some tomatoes that are looking great and some that are not looking so great. So our determinate plants that we have held up with this Florida weed trellis are looking exceptional as expected. These roadster plants are really showing out this year. This is a great variety, always does well for me, but I feel like they're looking really good this year. Our red snappers right there are looking good too. They're just not quite as fast as the roadsters, not quite as big yet, but they will get there. And then these BHN Gold tomatoes are about on par with the red snappers, except for this last one right here. Now keep in mind that this plot does slope a little bit down towards where I'm standing, and we've had a ton of rain lately, so it's probably wetter right there than it is anywhere in the plot. Probably why that plant right there looks like it's struggling a little bit, but as we get to higher ground, they seem to be doing a lot better. If we dig on in here a little bit to one of these roadster plants, I think we've got some tomatoes forming already. I got a nice little cluster right there. Not huge yet, a little bigger than golf ball size, but good to see some production forming already. And so I've added 3 lines of string for my Florida weave trellis so far. I think I showed y'all the first 2 and I did the 3rd one the other day. Today, probably time to go ahead and add that 4th line of string, so let me knock that out real quick like. So we got line number 4 knocked out on those real quick like. Probably not as immediately necessary on the red snappers and the golds as it was on the roadsters, but better to stay on top of this than to get behind. Now over here to our indeterminates, most of which are heirloom, starting to see a little attrition here. And I think it has a lot to do with all the rain we've been having lately. Some of these are looking okay, some of them looking pretty good, some of them not looking good at all. We'll start with our 3 Turkey Creek plants here. These seem to be hanging on pretty dang well. I'm happy with those. One of the best tasting tomatoes I've ever eaten, so I can't wait to get a couple of those. Now beside those, we've got these 2 Wisconsin tomatoes, and old David from Wisconsin, he's been begging me for an update on these to see how his seeds were doing, and I hate to tell you, David, but it's not looking good. They were looking good up until a few days ago. Now they're looking pretty dang rough, so I don't know if those are going to make it or not. We've got his Wisconsin number 1 and his Wisconsin number 2, and I don't think either one of them are going to fare very well long term. Then we've got a rose tomato plant right here, and this variety usually does better than most heirlooms for me. I plant one of these every year, and it's still looking good. So my hopes are still up to have some of these delicious tomatoes. Our old ox heart here, man, I thought about pulling it, then I decided to leave it because some people said, oh, it'll look pitiful, but it'll still give you some good tomatoes. But I don't think they meant looking that pitiful. I think that one there is toast. And then the last 2 plants we have on this row are Cherokee Carbon tomatoes, and I've been super impressed with these. These are looking really, really good. That plant right there looking a little better than that one. So I've got high hopes for these, and we're going to get a decent amount of tomatoes off those before it gets too hot for them. So not a whole lot of surprises here, except for maybe those Wisconsin tomatoes. I did have 1 or 2 of those make it on into July last year, so I'm a little surprised that those are going downhill so fast. But everything else is pretty much status quo. We've got our home run varieties, roadster, red snapper, the determinants we know are going to do well for us every single year. That's why we talk about them so much, because they're so reliable for us. And then the other varieties, we just cross our fingers and hope we get a few. And these are due to be fed again, because it's been about 2 weeks since we fed them last. Now I'm not going to do it today because it's still pretty wet out there, and I don't want to add any more moisture to that soil. But in another couple days, we'll give them another round of that AgriThrive fruit and flower and that Bug Hut plant booster. And it's important to note that I have yet to spray these tomatoes with anything. Now that Bug Hut plant booster does have some beneficial bacteria that can act like a fungicide when applied as a soil drench like we've been doing, but I haven't sprayed the leaves with anything yet. I probably will start soon because I know we'll start seeing some bugs and more fungal issues, especially if this rain keeps up. So this is what I'll be using this year. I like these Bug Hut products so far, and so we just added these two to the website, an insecticide and a fungicide. I'll just mix these together. One of these is made with garlic oil, one of them is made with thyme oil. If you want to know about all the benefits of these, you can go to our website at lazydogfarm.com and read about it. Now over here in the raised bed plot, our cherry tomatoes are looking pretty good too. Haven't sprayed these with anything yet. They've been on the same feeding schedule as those in-ground plants. They're loading up. Haven't noticed any of them really turning yet. Those Toranginas on the end haven't really started turning. Maybe some of these supernova grapes down in there, I don't know if you can see it, maybe one of those is starting to turn. So it won't be long before we'll have some delicious cherry tomatoes to eat. And then today, although it's probably too late to be planting tomatoes around here, I've got 6 more plants. I've got 3 of those purple GMO tomatoes and 3 of these Everglades cherry tomatoes that were kind of slow to get up and going that I'm going to plant in this bed right here. Now the last time we talked about those purple tomatoes, I kind of had my tinfoil hat on and I proposed a conspiracy that all the people that said those were doing good for them were getting paid to say that. But we had quite a few people comment and say theirs were slow in the beginning, but once they got them in the ground, they actually did okay. So maybe we can make something happen here. I know it's late. I may have to end up putting some kind of shade cloth over that bed, which won't be hard to do, but we'll just see what happens. Maybe they'll take off once we get them in some good soil. So I got this bed cleaned up and flipped earlier. I had some late cabbage in here that just did okay. We got a few decent heads off of it, but a lot of it split with all the rain we've been having. The last few heads are sitting right there. I need to take those over to the chickens in a minute. We got all the cabbage out of there, got the soil flipped a little bit, had to pull out a little in-bed worm farm. We'll find another home for that. And then there was a few volunteer basil plants on the end that I just decided to leave. So I'm going to turn my valve here and get the water running in these beds so I can decide where to put these tomato plants. Even though we got 3 or 4 inches of rain yesterday, this time of year, this raised bed soil dries out pretty dang fast, and they almost have to be watered every single day. So I'm going to go ahead and lay these out based on where my emitters are. I'll do 3 Everglade tomato plants on this side, and then we'll put the purple ones over there. I'm going to use cages to support these, so I do need to give them a little more space than probably just 2 foot. We'll do one right there, and then there's an emitter right there, and then probably one down here. Now usually when I flip a bed like this, I'll add some mushroom compost and also some worms and worm castings from our little worm farm by the barn. But when I was flipping this soil, I found a bunch of worms in there. So I'm not going to add any of that, and this soil here looks pretty good, so not going to add any mushroom compost right now. But I am going to add some of this Coop Gro as we do when we plant just about anything. Going to try and push these plants, get them to turn the corner a little bit. So we're going to dig us a nice deep hole down here first. We'll put us a generous handful of Coop Gro down in that hole. Get our plant out of here. You see we've got a decent root ball on those. Plant these kind of deep and mound some soil up around them. Hopefully they'll turn the corner pretty quick. Then we'll do the same thing over here with these purple tomatoes. Now these aren't near as tall, so we can't plant these near as deep, but we do want to plant them kind of deep. So we'll get us a little hole dug here. Coop Gro down in there. See if I can tease this out of there. Old delicate plant. Look at that root ball. It's been in there forever and still isn't that great. But maybe this is just what the doctor ordered. Maybe some good old raised bed dirt here will do it right. So we got them all in there, and I'm not going to add the cages just yet. I want to make sure these things actually do take off and start growing. Once they do, we'll throw a cage around each plant. Now, as the name suggests, I think those Everglade tomatoes are supposed to be pretty tough in the heat. Now, they haven't shown me that they're tough yet, but maybe they will. Those purple tomatoes, they got a lot of proving to do if they're going to earn a spot in my garden in future years. They better blow me away here in the next month or so. I am willing to put some shade on them to give them a chance, but they've got a long way to go before I'm impressed. And then before we go, I wanted to give you an update on a few other things over here in the raised bed plot. We've got these two beautiful beds of zinnias we planted a while back. Man, these are looking awesome. Starting to see some pretty blooms. I do need to prune these back so they don't get real tall and long on me and they stay kind of short and bushy. I'm liking how those are looking so far. These purple carrots over here, we harvested all these, but I guess we left a few in the dirt and they made a crazy comeback. I need to pull those and see if any of them are worth eating, or if maybe they've gotten woody. I'll just feed them to the chickens. I've got some marigolds I need to put in there ASAP. And then we've got these two long skinny beds we harvested the taters from on the last video. Those are ready to plant. We just got to put something there. And I've got just the right thing to put in those raised beds this time of year down here. Got some of these Bunch Porto Rico sweet potato plants that we grew in one of those long skinny raised beds last year and did pretty good. So this year we're going to do it one more again. So I got these plants in the mail yesterday and they look pretty decent, but I always like to put them in a jar of water for a few days and get them looking really, really good before I stick them in the ground. So this Bunch Porto Rico variety is a vineless variety, which means they don't trail quite as much as a traditional sweet potato variety. Now the plants will topple over the side of those beds, but they won't overrun my entire raised bed plot. They do remain relatively confined, which makes it a great variety for containers or raised beds. Now I also have a couple jars of Orleans sweet potato plants sitting in my office that we're probably going to plant in one of the Inground plots in another week or so. And just as a reminder, Steel Plant Company, where we get these, they usually stop shipping around late May, early June. So if you want to grow some sweet potatoes, now's the time to order your plants. Their website is sweetpotatoplant.com. They got a lot of great varieties, and you don't have to plant these as soon as you get them. So maybe you're not quite ready to plant sweet potatoes, you can keep these things in a jar of water for a couple weeks, as long as you change out the water every few days until you get ready. But at least you'll have some nice, pretty looking plants to go in the ground when you do get it ready. And as I've told you before, sweet potatoes are a great thing to grow in the middle of the summer when a lot of other vegetables may start to suffer a little bit because of the heat. These things thrive in the heat. If you've got a garden plot that you're just ready to give up on, don't give up on it and let it get overgrown with weeds. Just plant some sweet potatoes out there. It makes a nice ground cover, kind of doubles as a cover crop, and then come fall you can go out there and dig some sweet potatoes and you get kind of the bonus of a cover crop plus a nice storage crop as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Don't forget to grab some sweet potato plants if you haven't already before it's too late. And if you want to see what that vineless Bunch Porto Rico variety looks like in one of those long skinny raised beds, watch this video right here. We'll show you how they looked crawling over the side of the beds and the harvest from last year. So check that out and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.